cloud. I will start screen share. Okay. Oh, hang on. It wants. Okay, everybody can see the screen, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. All right. I had to make a couple changes because I'm going to play a video later. And so I wanted to share my computer's audio. So I had to set that up. All right. We've made it to Pursuit's Capstone Kickoff, 6.4 edition, part one. It's really the main part, but there'll be later when we introduce your mentors to you, and that will be part two.
Final
This is what it's all about.
for job search. Yep. How excited are you guys? It's like, oh yes, who was that? Yay!
Kind of like Henry.
Oh yes, Henry, appreciate you.
But it might have been somebody else. I don't know.
Is it? Was it? All right. So as you guys know, Capstone is here, is upon us, and I guess you guys can think of it as like an extended hackathon over the course of 10 weeks. And basically, you guys will be owning everything. When they say like end to end, it's like everything from ideation to the end product. Corey, get some sleep on this. But yeah, it's a really, really important part of your job portfolio. I think a lot of the times what happens is that people tend to refer to their capstone experience during the interview process because you get so many like takeaways from that intensive experience. So it'll be good. Should be very, very fun. And, you know, seeing like what you guys produce for the hackathon and just like in less than 48 hours, Corey and I and the team are super excited to see what you guys create for your capstone. Because now you get 10 weeks and you will actually have time to sleep. All right.
All right.
Do you have anything you want to add on to that?
Nope.
So these slides will look very familiar, right? Because we went over this during hackathon. So the whys are like, this is a huge opportunity to continue developing that professional and technical acumen and also building up the relationships within with people, industry professionals, through like the volunteers for technical mentors as well as design mentors. You want to talk about this?
Sure. So what you'll be doing, right? Capstone is more than just a project, just an app, but you will be deploying an app. This app should look really good, right? This is like going to be a showpiece for the resume. As Caroline mentioned, this is something you'll discuss in your interviews. And so this is, you want to give this your all, and that's what you're going to be building. It's going to be a unique thing, right? This isn't just, this isn't a clone. Well, you'll also be doing design, right? So you want to design your own logo and consider the design as well as the technical specs. So just think about how everything looks with the functionality as well.
Mm-hmm.
You'll also be developing your pitch during Capstone. This is your personal pop pitch and just different answers to different types of questions that you might receive about Capstone, what kind of problems you experienced, and how you overcame those problems, user stories, be able to talk about your project with fluidity. Okay. So how are we going to do that, right? Well, we're going to do it through teamwork, project management, specifically an agile workflow, instructor support, that's me. Technical mentors, you will receive those. I believe you get those on July 7th.
Yes, that is correct.
And there will also be design office hours, as well as other office hours.
And I hear technical mentors will be folks from Google. So we'll have Googlers as our mentors.
Yeah, that's cool.
With yeah.
That's sick. You should try to get them to get you a job. Okay. So
Or
MVP, the most valuable player, or in this case, minimum viable product. All right, so what are we expecting from Capstone? Well, we're expecting a front-end app built with React, obviously. Highly encouraged to use Redux, right, and context API still, and use all that we know. You must have a database in your backend that persists data, and you would want to use Express in your backend. So now's not really the time that we want people. I mean, if you can add different libraries and things like that, but we don't want you to like completely use totally different tech. Like I'm gonna make a MongoDB database. Probably not for this project. Um, it should be attractive, intuitive to users, and engaging to them. As your app will need authentication, right? Pretty much all apps involve authentication, especially if they're a bit in depth, and it needs to be deployed as well. Questions on tech specs? All right. So I guess this is a me slide too, right? Best practices of software development requirements, right? So you have to demonstrate a proficient Git workflow, right? So think about branches and merging, doing frequent and meaningful commits, right? None of the like change something big commits, more like implement user likes, right? That's a pretty good commit. Clear what happened. We want you to write clean code, right? This is like a project. I mean, you should always try to write clean code, right? I mean, usually you want to write something that works first and then refactor the code so that it's cleaner and drier. And one of the reasons why this is good is it's good practice, and it's also if someone's looking at your code, which as employers might do, you don't want them just like, what? Why would they do that? Oh, what? Yeah. So you want it to be like, oh, cool. This person could write code for me. In addition to all that, we also want you to like document your app, right? You want to create a README file that's well formatted and explains everything about the app. I know we've given out some like how to write good README guides in the past. We can probably re-share those and find those, but that's also something you should have for your CTA as well. Just a reminder, because I think I only had like one README that was really done, and we also would be doing that for here. Okay. So this is kind of a checklist here for all stacks. Right, your app is published and accessible on the web. App builds, compiles successfully. App runs without crashing. Uncontrollable errors are handled gracefully. Right, source code hosted on GitHub. Commits are made frequently. The README we just talked about. Dry, that's clean code, right? Names are descriptive. Things follow good naming conventions, right? Camel case, proud camel case, saying what it is. Functions are named by usually an adjective, what they do, right? Code shows clear division of responsibility, right? That goes back to like the single responsibility theory, or each thing should be responsible for one thing, ideally. Code adheres to relevant style guides, so it's clean, it's commented, looks nice, easy to read. Its app is focused on solving a specific problem, so we don't really want an app that's just a collection of like random features and like a lot of different features. We want something more that's uh, focused, I guess. Um, we've got user stories, intuitive UX and UI. App is responsive, right? It's interacting with an API. Data persists. If If you want to go above and beyond, you can add testing. I know we haven't taught that yet. We will have a brief lesson on testing in a couple of weeks, which is cool. It's going to be fun, but that's the bulk of this. Any questions on any of this?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Expectations. Right? Everybody codes. Everybody codes. Right? Just like the song. It's really important. In the past, there's been people who have kind of tried to take a bit of a backseat, or like they're like, I'm just going to be in charge of the CSS. It's like, no, really, you want to be in charge of everything, right? Try to build vertically, right? So each person can take and own their own feature, right? You should be writing routes, queries, components, logic, right? All the way up, and including, right, HTML and CSS as well. Like, it's all important. So practice all those skills. Don't shortchange yourself. Teamwork and project management. So we're going to have Trello boards. Teams will take time doing a daily pause and a time daily to pause. Sorry. They're going to be doing daily stand-ups each morning, and keep Trello up to date so that instructors can go around quickly and get a snapshot of the team's progress, also for the mentors as well. So each group's project board should have info, notes, backlog, in-process code, code review, and merged. And we'll be doing something called daily stand-ups. So a daily stand-up is at the beginning of each class, your group will sync together and talk about what they did yesterday, the goals of what they're going to be working on today, and if anything is standing in their way of accomplishing what they're trying to do today. So hang on, note-taking. And you should rotate with people taking notes so you can keep track of what's being said in these meetings. You don't want to just have a meeting and then nothing, like everything disappears, right? We want these meetings to actually be useful, right? They should be like no more than 10 minutes. So yesterday I shared this GitHub link, asking people to read it, right? So that's what these are all about, essentially this. And we're going to watch a brief video right now to better understand working in an agile environment, okay?
Introduction to Scrum, a 7-minute training video with details on what you need to start using Scrum today. This video is intended for people who are just getting started with the Scrum framework and need a quick primer. Hi, my name is Steve Stedman, and I am the founder of Usility Software. In this video, we will cover the basics behind Scrum, and we'll take a look at how Scrum compares to Waterfall development, and we'll examine the 3 roles, 3 artifacts, and 3 ceremonies that make up Scrum. First, let's take a look at how Scrum compares to the older alternative of Waterfall development. Waterfall typically goes through a lengthy planning process, which could take several months, followed by building the product, which again could take many months, and then testing the product, reviewing, and eventually deploying the product.
Whoops.
At this point, you may end up bringing the wrong product to market if market demand or technology has changed since the original plan was developed. There are several problems with this method. First of all, the planning must be completed before any work begins, and in most cases the planning is done without entirely understanding the project. Once development is being done, oftentimes things get sent back to the planning phase, and the project either needs to start over, or the developers are just criticized for not understanding the plan. This cycle can happen many times. When development is done building the product, it gets thrown over the fence to test, where when problems are encountered, it bounces back to development and sometimes back to planning. The same issues occur in the next few steps, with lots of backstepping and doing over. This can lead to lag times and many months to several years in order to get a product out the door. With Scrum, an implementation of Agile, the process is broken up into smaller pieces. First, we do just enough planning to get started with, building the minimal feature set. We build what was planned. Next, we test and review that small feature set and get it ready to ship. When that cycle is complete, we end up with a potentially shippable product. This process usually occurs in a time period of 1 to 3 weeks. This is then repeated time and time again, reducing the time from planning to development to testing. Each time through the planning process, we're doing just enough planning to complete the next incremental release. You end up with several incremental releases called sprints. A sprint usually takes from 1 to 3 weeks, and you just keep repeating these sprints until your product is feature complete. Sometimes you may end up shipping your product after the second sprint, or the third, or the fourth, or even further, but you eventually end up with a shipping product. In Scrum, there are 3 key roles that are needed for the framework to work well. First, the product owner. This is the person responsible for defining the features that are needed in the product. The product owner has the bright ideas that turn into products. The Scrum Master is a servant leader to the team, responsible for protecting the team and the process, running the meetings, and keeping things going. The team can be made up of developers, testers, writers, and anyone else that helps in building the product. Team members often play multiple roles. Some days developers may end up doing test, or testers may end up writing. Either way, the team works to get the product done. There are 3 artifacts or documents that are used in Scrum. First, the product backlog. This is where product owners create a prioritized list of features, known as user stories, that could go into the product. This list evolves and changes priority with every sprint. User stories are a way of describing a feature set that follows the as a user, I need something so that reason format. This way of phrasing a user story allows the product owner to specify the right amount of detail for the team to estimate the size of the task. The highest priority user stories go into the sprint backlog. These get estimated for size and are committed to for the next sprint. Burn-down charts show the progress during a sprint on the completion of tasks in the sprint backlog. This chart should approach 0 points as the work is being completed. There are 3 ceremonies that make up Scrum. Think of these as meetings or discussions. Sprint planning is where the product owner, Scrum Master, and team meet to discuss the user stories and estimate their relative sizes. The daily Scrum is a brief stand-up meeting where the team discusses what they have completed since the previous meeting, what they're working on, and anything that might be blocked or need help. The sprint review and retrospective occurs at the end of the sprint. This is where the team demonstrates the completed work to the product owner, and then the team discusses what they can do to improve the process going forward. Let's bring it all together and take a look at the Scrum workflow. Start with the product backlog, which is where the product owner builds a list of the bright ideas and features that could go into the product. The product owner prioritizes the list and brings the top items to the team. Sprint planning is where the team, product owner, and Scrum Master discuss the top priority user stories, determining what can go into the next sprint. The output from the sprint planning meeting is the sprint backlog. This is a list of user stories that have been committed to for the next sprint. The entire team and product owner have a solid understanding of what each of the user stories involves based on the discussions from the sprint planning meetings. The sprint is a 1 to 3 week time box where the work committed to in the sprint backlog is worked on through to completion. During the sprint, the daily Scrum occurs as a stand-up meeting where the team discusses what they have completed and what they are working on, as well as any blocked items. The outcome of the sprint is a potentially shippable product. Potentially shippable means that the product owner can decide if it is ready to ship or if there are any additional features needed before it ships. At the end of the sprint, a sprint review and sprint retrospective meeting occurs. The sprint review is where the team showcases their work to the product owner, and the retrospective is where the team works on what they can do to improve their process. Repeat this workflow for each sprint. Now, for a software solution to help manage the workflow. Usility has been built around the Scrum process.
All right, that's everything. Any questions on that? Right. So there's more about these different Scrum ceremonies from the GitHub link sent yesterday. I'll also share this out in the chat right now so you can have reference to it.
Corey?
Yeah.
Hey, I just had a quick question. So how many, so I know the sprints are like a combination of all those mini scrums. How many sprints is like a good amount of sprints we should have for this project?
So we're gonna have about, I think, 5 or 6 sprints that are scheduled.
Okay.
Which we'll definitely go over. But yeah, so, at the beginning, you should have your sprint ceremony, essentially, and figure out what your next sprint's going to look like according to which kind of like tickets are in your backlog and all of that. Prioritize those, and then you'll build those out. And then at the end, you'll do a little practice demo in front of certain people. We'll probably like do it with each other, but not necessarily entirely class wide each time. We'll see. That's kind of up to the future. And then you'll be able to have a retrospective to see how that sprint went, and then you'll set things up for your next sprint. And you'll model your Trello boards off of something like this, right? Where you've got your backlog and the current sprint you're working on, what's in progress, what's done, and whatever other categories you think are going to help you. Nishi, I see you raised your hand.
Yes, for making sure everyone codes and building vertically, how will we get around the merge errors where, say, if we're building vertically and we're doing routes and queries, essentially we're going to be working in the same file, but we're just going to be adding a different component. Would we just continue with our separate branches and then merge everything once it's done? Or how would that look for making sure everyone is coding?
Sure. So as you complete features, you should definitely be merging those into the master branch, and people should be pulling. Hopefully there won't be conflicts. But I mean, part of avoiding those conflicts would be communication with the team and talking through which things probably don't want to work in the exact same file. But if you do, you'll just have to resolve the conflict, keep both if they're doing 2 different things.
Okay.
Probably shouldn't be too bad. Good question. Any other question? All right, so I encourage you as a team to also reread this to make sure you really understand it as well. I know that was, it's a lot of information packed into 7 minutes. Okay, let's keep rocking. Caroline, you want to?
Sure thing. I think the crux of this slide, as well as the next one, is just we're looking for you guys to be really proactive, whether it's in terms of your communications or your preparations, and really taking this experience as a simulation of the real work environment. So when you're in terms of communications, letting your teammates know way ahead of time, or giving them as much advance notice as possible if you're running late. And if you're running late, then, how are you going to engage with the team? How are you going to catch up later? So talking about all of that. And And then also like when you guys are meeting with your technical mentors or your design mentors, really taking the point on this, like once you guys get connected, the team is then the POC for the mentor. So if you have any needs, to reach out proactively and earlier on, and then also following up after. In terms of like preparations, like obviously you want to go into those meetings with a set agenda, right? And content to discuss. So that's that.
And POC in this context is
Point of contact.
point of contact.
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Yes, point of contact. So if we go on to the next slide.
All right, let's keep going.
Yep. I think this is a given. You know, like interact with your teammates, because your teammates can become a colleague or like a contact in your professional network. So just be mindful of what you say, how you say things, even to the classroom team, to, you know, HQ staff, HQ as in headquarter, and then also setting an agenda and working through it as you would at your job. So being mindful of your time. 10 weeks is not long. All right, I think that's you, Corey.
Okay, important information, key dates, facts, frequently asked questions, and etc. So these are the key dates. So today, right, June 28th, you'll be ideating and completing your group norms. This is a document that, because we're going to share these slides at the end, right? So you'll be able to find all these hot links. So you'll want to do that. Your final project proposal is July 1st. I know it seems like, oh, it's only 3 days, but really, you know, right, we're going to have all of today. We're going to have Monday, we're going to have Tuesday, and then the first, I believe, is a Wednesday. Oh, remind me. So Carolyn and I fought enough with the leadership, and so we will have the 4th and the 5th off, just so you know, okay? Let's not go into it, but we got it. So we're very excited about that. We're off too. Anyway, July 1st, we talked about that. So July 7th, you'll be introduced to your tech mentors. On July 8th, that's when you're going to have your first sprint demo. So this is mostly you'll be showing what you've been working on, which is going to be like this whole ideation and getting things right. This could be with wireframes and just kind of presenting your app as is and talking about you're delivering what you worked on, right? Our next sprint meeting is going to be on July 15th. So that's what's going to be a quick 1-week sprint. Then we'll have an MVP due on the 29th of July, as well as another sprint demo for that. So we're hoping that you'll have hit MVP. This doesn't mean that your app is perfect and complete. It just means we have the absolute minimum of what we're trying to accomplish, right? We still have a lot more time to work on it. But it's just like kind of the rough version, right? Maybe things don't work perfect, whatnot, but we're getting there. Right, we got to have dates or we're going to lose track of time, right? August 12th, we have another sprint demo. Then August 26th, right, is every 2 weeks. And then we have one September 9th, and that's when we want you to have version 2 complete. So this is like, your app should be like nearly done, if not done here. Like everything is complete. On September 13th, we want to be done coding, right? So take it from me, take it from All About the Green, right? We do not want to have a capstone where people, when we're at a technical showcase and we're getting messages like, oh, my app no longer works. Like, help us.
Why you gotta throw us under the bus? Like
oh, just to stay relevant, right? Your team's not the first. Your team won't be the last.
Oh my God.
Right. So we want to be completely done. Really, the goal is to be completely done by September 13th. From then, we'll have a code freeze and we'll start working on I mean, we're going to be working on our presentations throughout, but this is when we'll really start driving presentation practice. You'll practice in front of the class. We'll do a run through. We'll probably do another run through on the 14th, and you shouldn't have to be coding on the project at this point, right? We really don't want to break stuff. Everything should be good at this point. It's a ways out, but it will be here quick, right? And then September 15th is the technical showcase. Demo day, I guess, is to be announced. I'm not really sure what's happening. Let's just treat technical showcase like it's
Demo
the
day,
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Just as a quick heads up, like we will be practicing like the pop pitches, the presenting with like the sprint demos. So it's not just going to be crammed into the last week. It'll be worked on incrementally. Keep iterating on it. So that's that.
Yeah, and you can check Canvas for all these dates as well as the dates of other things. I think one day of the weekend in the morning, we're going to have like a practice problem and have some time to work on our portfolio or like CTA to finish that, please. Right. And once you finish that, you should be working on your portfolio. So we'll have some time. There's some time built in. There's going to be some lessons still every week or every couple weeks. Kind of like our BST that we talked about yesterday, or as Kang likes to say, BTS. Right? Yeah. All right. All right, cool. Let's keep it rolling. So who do I contact if there's a problem? Well, it's the same people that you should have been contacting for the last 9 months, right? Me or Caroline. Probably don't reach out to John and Jenny at this time, unfortunately, although you totally can. I still hit them up constantly. So anyway, but yeah, we're the main point of contacts. And then what if you have to miss a week? Let us know, right? Treat it like a job. Let your team know. And if so, yeah, definitely let us and your team know. There's been times when it's like, hey, where is this person? And the team's like, oh yeah, they told us. And it's like, well, how come they didn't tell Carolina? We're essentially, in this role play, we're the boss, right? So you got to let us know. Yeah, let's keep rolling. Words of wisdom. Caroline, do you want to handle these ones?
Yeah, actually, I think we can go around and have people read them out loud.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah. So Siam, you wanna go ahead and take the first one?
Capstone advice from staff. Teamwork makes a dream work. The products will only be as strong as the team. A good leader doesn't do the best work. They help their team do their best work.
Right. Does anyone have an example that they want to share? Teamwork makes the dream work.
I mean, I don't know how many of you guys watch basketball, but if you remember like the 2012 Miami Heat, like everybody would have thought Mario Chalmers could ball, but he's trash. But that's like just how good LeBron makes everybody around him look.
Okay, so there's that. Brandon just switched his background like that. Is there an example that you guys would want to share that you've experienced personally or have seen other people experience it during our time in the program? I'll call on someone. Sam.
Hey, okay. Well, I agree with this statement. I think because I agree, thinking of a very specific example, like, I mean, just whenever we do a team project, you have to present the whole project. You're not just presenting what you do. So.
Totally.
Agreed. Thank you. Sam, do you want to read the next one?
Measure twice, cut once. planning and organization are key to prevent duplication of work and headaches down the line.
Right. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the quote. I don't know who's it's attributed to, but it's like, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. You guys heard of that saying? So basically it's saying preparation.
George Washington?
Someone, yeah.
Lincoln.
Oh, Lincoln.
Very iconic, I think, figure. But basically it's saying preparation leads to increased productivity and also efficacy. So if you think about it in the context of our program, you guys can imagine like the first 9 months where you guys sharpening the axe, right? Honing your technical skills, group projects, your hackathon, your CTA was and is still part of that precursor to what you guys will be working on now, which is the capstone, and it's a culmination of all of that. Okay. Lincoln Moss, is it? All right, so next one, let's have Brandon. Brandon, I see you right on my screen, so you want to take the next one?
The struggle is real. We will provide as many guardrails as possible, but rest assured, Capstone will be a struggle. Your team will face challenges much more independently than you have before.
Yes. And coming off of Hackathon, I think you guys have felt keenly what those challenges could be. Does anyone want to share a challenge that their team has faced but have overcome since or still working on?
I think for me, a challenge was like struggling to understand the different like libraries and packages that we would be installing, like aside from the basic like Express, React, all that jazz. Like, so it was like a lot of like research and struggling to understand outside work within the team, and not being able to go to, you know, our team leads to ask for help, and kind of like just struggling to make it through on our own, and really understanding the product in itself, I think was a real struggle.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Shia. Henry has his hand.
So for our hackathon, when we went to do like the first presentation with the team, with the leading team, we didn't have anything working on the app, and it was such a, I don't know, like we didn't have anything at all, and it almost felt like we wasn't gonna have anything for the hackathon. And after that presentation, we just was like, yo, we need to have something in the screen before the end of the day. So we just kept pushing, literally to like the last minute of the presentation. And yeah, that like I don't want to say we were struggling, but we were having a tough time getting our MVPs.
Yeah.
But we had a good team and we made it happen. So that was that.
Yeah, definitely. And Capstone will be similar, if not amplified. Again, Henry's like, oh no. But yes, you will face challenges, but you know, it helps, right, to talk through them, like being self-aware. Again, like I'm saying this again, being self-aware, being a team player, and prepping amply ahead of time will help you mitigate a lot of those barriers that may come down the pipeline. All right, next.
Let's hear from some of the grads.
Yeah. Nilber, you want to help us read the first one?
So the first one is get the kernel core MVP version of your idea done and working first. Then add features. Don't try to do too much at first.
Who's been guilty of this? Raise your hand. And this is also me, yes. So yes, MVP, MVP, MVP. All right, next, Doug. Oidor's like, yeah.
It's
Doug,
corny
what
and
are-
obvious, but try to have fun. When you and your team are enjoying yourselves, you will produce higher quality code.
Doug, did you have fun during hackathon?
A little. I think it was mostly like struggling through.
Yeah,
I think the fun came when like things actually ran and
agree.
the mini celebrations that we had.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely saw that for a lot of the hackathon teams, like when you guys had your MVP and then it was just like working on the front end or like tweaking some stuff, tweaking the presentation deck, or like even just like the presentation run through. That's when you guys were smiling a little bit more, and things were coming together. All right, next one. Khan, can you read the third one?
Okay. You will have issues within your team, but handle them internally. I guarantee you will resolve them and definitely be strong. Also set time aside to review the code with each other.
Okay, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm sure you guys.
Right, you want to know how every part of your application works, right?
Works,
So that reviewing code is definitely important because if like you're all gonna have this on your resume, right? Like for your team. So if you didn't do a feature and someone's like, "Whoa, how did you guys get this? How did you get this to work?" Your answer can't be like, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't me. I didn't do any of that. I don't know." Right? Because then they go, "Oh, okay. So what about this feature?" And you're like, "No, I don't know. I didn't write that." And they're like, "Oh, okay. What did you write?" And they're like, "Yeah, I did this." You know, like you want to like know the app, right? Your name's on it. You got to know it.
Yeah.
Also, just if you can't resolve something within the team, right? It is okay to reach out to the managers of the projects, which are Caroline and myself, right? That's okay. But of course, try to work things out. Last year we did have a team with like 2 people that like really got into it, right? And they were like shouting at each other, and I did have to mediate with that. And like I don't think we're gonna have that with us. Really hope not, because that was super uncomfortable and for everybody and not really appropriate. So at least don't shout at each other.
We'll be here to help support that mediation. But yes, your responsibility does not end just because you contributed to the code base. Your responsibility should also encompass understanding your team's code base through and through. So please do code reviews with your teammates. All right, next. Danny, please read the next one.
Hello.
Hello.
Which one are we on? It's corny. Or the other one?
The last one.
Oh, my bad. Don't focus on winning. Make something you enjoy making / using.
Yeah. All right. And then Brutus, you want to take the next one?
This is the second one.
The first one for the next slide.
When you're having a hard time, when you're having a problem or stuck, don't keep it to yourself. Let your team know. Peer program with each other to avoid bottlenecks.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example that you can share or thought around this?
Well, I definitely I prefer peer programming over programming alone, because it does actually help either myself or the person that I'm working with get an idea, especially if we didn't understand a certain concept. At least like we're reviewing it together and seeing it work together. So when it comes out and functions, then it's a better feeling. And if it breaks, then you have a second pair of eyes looking at it to see where you may have went wrong.
Definitely. Yes. Sam just gave you a thumbs up. I don't know if you saw. All right, Maria, next one, please.
Stick to what's been assigned to you. If you want to do more, then run it by the team first.
Yeah.
I gotta say something about this one. Yeah, this is like, it seems kind of like, huh? Trust me, like this is a pretty good point. I last year we had some teams, and there are some people who really want to do things positive for the team, but sometimes it comes off as super negative and like not a great thing, because like last year after I think they're after one of the hackathons or something, one fellow like rewrote all of the code that day. And so they came in the next morning and he was like, yeah, I changed all, I like fixed it all. It's all been rewritten. And like his team was not happy. They were like no longer knew anything going on with the app, right? There were also other teams during Capstone where you would have someone who would just constantly be pushing to master without checking or working with the team, and it just causing so many conflicts. Also rewriting. People like don't want their work to be completely rewritten, especially without like talking to them, right? So like really run things by the team. You may think you're doing something like altruistic and helping the team, but like it does create rifts, right? So definitely just communicate. Like it's all good with communication. Nobody wants to hear someone go, I completed the ticket that I've been working on. And they go, yeah, I completed it. I completed it last night for you. Your ticket, like all that work you did's done. Yeah, there have been some rough groups. Capstone can get rough, Henry.
Yeah, definitely. We had certain things like that. Yeah, perfect. Even for my class. All right, Deja, you want to take the last one?
Pace yourself. Breaks are okay. Set realistic, attainable daily goals.
Yeah. Pace yourselves. You guys have 10 weeks, which is actually 2 weeks more than what I had last year as an Android Nights and Weekend fellow. So just communicate with each other, take breaks, and set realistic goals to hit. What was that, Henry?
Yeah, since you had your Capstone experience last year, you want to like talk about your experience real quick or not?
Oh, I was going to do that at the.
Oh, my bad. Nah, let me not. Do your thing.
All right. Next.
Okay.
What do we got? All right. I think it's you, Corey.
Yeah, no, you can read that. Right, checklist for today. Not just you. I meant everyone. Not like I wasn't calling you out specifically, Caroline. Right. So here's what you want to be doing today. You want to go to this document to complete your group norms and discuss. Right. You want to do introductions. Talk. Get to like spend. You don't have to jump immediately into ideas. You can spend a little bit of time. I know you all already all know each other. We've been programming together, but still, you can spend some time to talk, right? Get to know each other. What interests you? What interests? Maybe there's some things in common that you didn't realize that you had them in common yet, right? Talk about how you'll function as a team, right? These are part of the group norms. What are we trying to accomplish, right? What are the goals and our outcomes? And how can we implement? What does that mean? I guess how are we going to build this? Right. And then definitely start with the ideation. All teams should make a list of their ideas. This ideas tracker is a tool that you can use to help. It's not necessarily required, as in it's not required, but if you find that helpful to have your ideas through this tracker, you're welcome to do so. Right. Discuss the scope of the project, identify planning and technical steps. Your teams should also establish a weekly cadence for your meetings, right? When, where, and how. I guess where is pretty obvious. Well, I guess maybe it's Hangout, maybe it's Zoom, right? And add as many meetings to your calendars as possible today, right? So actually schedule them, right? It's so easy, and we all do it where we're like, oh yeah, so we'll just meet we'll like talk about this every Wednesday, and every Tuesday we'll talk about this, and people go, yeah, that's a great idea. And then nothing happens, right? I can't tell you how many dates I lost down on in my life by saying like, well, we should go out sometime. Like, yeah. It's like, All right, well, I'll see you later. Right? Pin down the dates, right? Pin down the dates. Write them down. Get them in the calendar. Right? So model tech / production, collaboration, and communication. So they'll talk about how you're going to build things, figure out how you're going to collaborate and how you're going to communicate, much like what Ashi was bringing up with like different conflicts people might have, merge conflicts with everybody coding, right? Model out like what you'll do in that situation, how you could overcome those. Set up a Trello, right? And invite all members, including your future mentors, which you don't know yet, so you don't have to include them today, but definitely include the classroom team, AKA Caroline and myself, right? This only needs to be done. We only need to be invited by one team member. And your Trello boards, right, reminder should look something like this. This is with the Scrum Agile simple board with your backlogs, current sprints, and all that jazz. I can share out the link to this video as well. You can also find things on YouTube if you want to get more familiar with the Scrum. Review the Capstone Gradebook. This is a guide that talks about different capstone-y stuff. Oh crap, I'm scrolling through a lot. Almost went the wrong way. Okay. That was really close. Create a group Slack channel for your team, right? And invite everybody. Do they need to invite Caroline and Dolly?
Later, not right now. Right now, you guys can focus on just inviting me and Corey.
But keep in mind, maybe someday that you'll have to invite Dolly and Caroline as well. So
yeah,
what kind of content you might write in there. So create that little channel.
When should we invite you guys for that? Because we, in our hackathon, we were actually slacking a lot. So we don't want to like slack you like unimportant messages.
Oh yeah, so you'll do it in a channel. So you'll actually create a channel.
Oh, okay.
And so we can silence the channels if it's really annoying to us. Well, it's okay. It's like it's we're not really going to be annoyed by it anyway because it's our job, right? So like we're just there to help. I guess and that way we can also communicate with your team faster as well. I mean, right? Also, like, as much as we want you to use that channel and at least be aware of that channel for if we need you, technically there's nothing stopping you from all making a channel without us, right?
Which is what actually my team did last year. Or a lot of the teams did. Yeah. Like that channel can be for more things that are more official. And then, you know, the day-to-day stuff, you guys can have your own group chat / channel that you guys can communicate in.
Yeah, right. I mean, the bosses all wherever you work and stuff may ask to be part of your channel. Put them in a channel, and then you can technically always make another one. Not that I have any channels that don't include my bosses. All right. So by July 1st, that's when that project, your final project proposal, should be submitted to us, right? So this is what you're going to be working on, have it planned out, and all that. Definitely do work on the Trello board that we're part of, though, right? All right. Any questions for today?
I just want to add one thing. So you know how like the first thing is like discussing group norms. How did you guys find that for your hackathon? Discussing norms first and then going into the actual coding and the planning and stuff like that.
I think for us, we determined like what we wanted out of like what each of us wanted out of from the app and from each other, like our expectations. And so we kind of made the norms based on that. Yeah, we just set our expectations and what we were looking to get out of the app first. And then doing that, we were able to see what commonalities we had between each other and what we could build upon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Me with my group, I've worked with D on many projects before.
Yeah.
So that the norm stuff, we kind of already knew how to work from each other. Like we knew how we worked. So we just came together and started working right away.
That's great. Like, I just want to highlight this because this is so important, even though, like, I don't know, like for me and my team, my Capstone team, like we came off like doing the hackathon feeling very emotional. Like a lot of tensions were running high. Granted, like the Capstone group was a different group configuration from the hackathon team, but we had a lot of takeaways, and we actually spent like the first 3 hours, and I think I mentioned this before, the first 3 hours just discussing what our were of each other, what the framework for how we were going to communicate with each other, what the decision-making process was, how we were going to resolve conflicts, like that. Like we had all these like instructors and PMs like coming by and asking us what our idea was going to be, and we're like, no, we need to have this conversation first, because every single one of us felt things so keenly after the hackathon that we really needed to debrief. So I would also encourage, you don't have to take obviously 3 hours, but that is what worked for us, and we decided on like a consensus building decision-making approach, which at the end, like it did take us longer to get to a specific decision, but by that time we had everyone's buy-in, and it was so much easier to work on it because there was no resentment, there was no thought or feelings or opinion that was not communicated and that the rest of the team did not hear. So just as an FYI, it's good to set that up. Okay, should we go on?
All right, so you'll check out this checklist, everybody. Make sure you go through it today.
I have a question. Is there a specific theme for this capstone?
Oh, I think we're getting to that still,
yeah.
but no, not really. No theme. Yeah, let's see where the next slide goes. But we will answer that in a bit. Okay, so let's talk about giving. Actually, Carolyn's probably better at this than I am. Don't just remember radical candor, right? There was like empathy, like ruinous empathy. That's like when you can't give back feedback and you just support things to the point where it's no longer good, right? We had manipulative something. It was a negative one. That's like where you don't care about people personally and you talk shit, essentially, right? Making things worse. We had the obnoxious aggressor, right? That was essentially the asshole of the group. That's someone who doesn't necessarily care personally, but gives feedback. And if you remember from Ray's talk, I also read the book, well, almost finished. Anyway, the obnoxious aggressor is actually the second best one to be in, right? So that just goes to tell you how important actually giving feedback is, right? The best one was obviously radical candor. That's when you're able to care personally as well as give feedback, constructive feedback. So if you can give feedback from a place of caring, you're in radical candor. If for some reason you can't do that, at least be the obnoxious aggressor, right? Not saying you should be that over radical candor, but it's better than ruinous empathy, which is where a lot of us like to live, or manipulative insincerity. That was the fourth column. So these are some tips to giving those feedback, right? But we have to, like, as a group, right? You really want to build your culture and community as your little team, right? You have to be able to trust each other and care about each other. And if you trust each other, then it's a lot easier to give back feedback and to take that feedback when you trust each other, right? Yeah, there's some techniques here, which is like the I feel emotion, when, whatever. I would like something. Carolyn, maybe you're better at giving these things. I think you're a little bit better with people. I'm more of the obnoxious aggressor.
No, I think you explained it really well. Like, basically, you want to be challenging directly, but caring personally. And these are some of the ways in which you can, right? Like, how do you start off that conversation? Because that conversation can be uncomfortable, sensitive, right? And so you want to focus on sharing your thoughts first, your thoughts, your observations, right? What you've noticed by using the word I, because once you start with you, it can get a little accusatory. So this is just like tips on how you can start to have that conversation, whether it's like giving feedback or receiving feedback. And if you have, and you know, obviously in any conversation, you guys do want to be mindful of like letting the other person finish speaking before interjecting, right? Like that's the hallmark of a good listener. You just, but also being mindful that like after you had your say, you're open to listening to the other person. It's not just you talking all throughout. Because then it's just a one-sided conversation. It's definitely not a dialogue. So
You've got a point.
yeah.
You have got a point.
You got a point. All right.
All right. So this is the Capstone project ideation process suggestion, right? So we suggest when you actually start ideating as your team that each team lists out like 10 ideas independently, right? Don't forget from our hackathon, right? No idea is stupid, just write them out. If you're stuck, think of the worst possible ideas. Maybe that will help come up with better ideas.
Yeah.
Right. And then just share all your ideas as your team, right? That should be around 30 to 40 like ideas. Maybe some of them overlap. Group ideas that are similar, right, can be combined. And then, you know, you can add on to each other's ideas, right? Just riff a bit, narrow it down to the few top choices, discuss with Caroline and I if you want, right? And then you guys should come and choose your final idea. What's really going to excite you? Remember, this is a long project, right? This is 10 weeks. Maybe more. It may be later in your life you want to keep working on it, right? So like, just like when I emphasized the CTA, like choosing the right app, right? Like choose something that you're going to be working on for a while. It's going to be a lot of hours looking at this, fixing. Don't settle for something that is just, all right. You want to do something that you're actually excited to build.
Yeah, push the envelope, guys.
And it's hard to find, but I'll tell you, like when I was doing that helper queue, I was really excited to build that. I spent 3 days building it all day, every day, right? I kind of hurt my hands doing it, so I then slowed down. But because I was really excited, and it's great to be excited about something. The best ideas will ultimately be a collaborative effort and take advantage of your group's unique dynamic and skill set. And then we have here, really think of a real world problem or something you wish existed. I guess that's the theme, if there is a theme, Henry, right? You might want to be solving some type of problem, but in our eyes, you know, a problem is something that you wish existed or that there was a website that did this, but it's not there. That's a problem, right? So it doesn't have to be like, you're going to solve global warming. So, I mean, if you want to do something with global warming and all that, that's awesome. But it doesn't have to be like a problem like that. It can just be something that's really cool that you think would be awesome. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen,
drum roll.
The moment you've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please. This is the teams for Capstone. Team 1, Ashia Marvin, Kevin Wong, and Henry. Team 2, Doug Rafi, Jay Fowler, and Brandon. Team 3, Giovanni, Isaiah Sehon. Team 4, Deja, Jay Jones, Nilmer. Team 5, Sam Ohidor, Danny, and Ujwakabasi. And Team 6, Maria, Brutus, and Kong. Hope you all are as excited about your teams as I am. I think every single team is dynamite. Here we go. That's the end of this.
All right. Let's do it. Yes. What is it? Okay, so we should share this deck. I can do that, Corey.
What?
Sharing the deck. Go ahead and.
Sure, I can share that.
Oh, you want to do it? Sure.
Well, I don't. You can do it if you want. We can both do it. I should stop recording.
Whoever's quicker. So, how are you guys feeling? Are we ready to rumble? No? Yes.